right. Okay, we're good. All right, we will go ahead and bring this meeting to order. Time is 6:01. And we will go ahead and start with the call, which has been done, and roll call, please.
Commissioner Eddings, Commissioner Johnston, Commissioner Laval.
Present.
Commissioner Federico.
Here.
Commissioner Halajian. Here. Vice Chair Hatwig.
Here.
Chair Sponsler.
Here. All right, now I'm going to go on to our procedures. For each matter considered by the Commission, there will first be a staff presentation, followed by a presentation from the project applicant. The Commissioners will then have the opportunity to ask questions of staff and applicant before opening to the public. Testimony from supporters of the project will be then taken, followed by testimony for those in opposition. Staff may provide a summation if necessary. The applicant will then have a right to a final rebuttal presentation prior to closing of the public hearing, followed by consideration of the item in action, if any, by the Commission. In accordance with Section 13 of Article 2 of the Historic Preservation Commission bylaws governing length of public debate, all public testimony from those in support and in opposition of the project will be limited to the 3 minutes per person. All public testimony must be presented to the Commission at the podium. Any testimony that references race, religion, ethnicity, economic status, national origin, or any other classification protected under state or federal law in a derogatory manner shall be deemed irrelevant and will not be considered by the Commission in making its determinations. If you challenge these matters in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised in oral or written testimony or before the close of the hearing. With that, we'll go ahead and approve the meeting minutes from our prior meeting. Do we not have those yet? Okay. Those will be in December. Then we'll go ahead and move on to approving tonight's agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes at this time.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move forward with the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Hatwig. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Laval. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. Since we have no items on consent calendar, we're going to move past that and we will go to continued matters. So item 6A, which is our continued item of file ID 25-1591, and that's our continued deliberation and consideration of requests by the property owner to enter into Mills Act historical property contract for the Maria and J.B. Sella home located at 3501 East Huntington Boulevard. What I will note for the Commission is, since this is a continued item, this is just our continued deliberation after we've asked for the clarifying information from staff. So at this point, it's going to be just us continuing what we discussed last meeting. So I do see, Ashley, you're at the podium here.
Yes.
Did you want to add anything regarding that?
I would just like, excuse me, Ashley Atkinson, Assistant Director for Planning and Development, serving as Historic Preservation staff for this meeting. I would just like to update you on the information that was requested after the last meeting. May I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. So on October 27th, at your last meeting, the Commission held a notice public hearing to consider this application. And as
Chair, just a second. Did we have an interpreter in the audience tonight?
We do.
Okay, so Chair, I need to get that information. So we do have a Chinese language interpreter in the audience tonight.
Okay.
So at this time, she's working directly with the residents who need that language translation. If and when you ask for testimony at the podium, she will come up to the podium and you'll have to give time between translation. So speak a little bit, translate, etc.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
And just as a note, that's something that's not a regular thing here for our meeting, so that's why it was not notified immediately.
Yeah. Sorry. Normally, if we have a request for a translation, we would give that announcement at the beginning for anyone who needed Chinese language translation.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Continue, Ashley. Thank you.
Sure. So at the last meeting, in your motion to continue this item to November 24th, you asked staff to review and report back on 4 items, which were first, whether adaptive reuse of a garage to an ADU is permitted as an activity under Mills Act regulations. That's one of the items in the proposed work plan. Second, a report on the current permit status of the solar installation. Third, confirmation that the current ownership is accurately reflected in the Mills Act contract. And fourth, whether zoning regulations prevent short-term rental use of the property, since it was noted that the property is advertising a room or rooms on Airbnb. So we do have a photo here of the home as it appears today, just for reference as we go over those items. So first, just to clarify that the Mills Act and the City of Fresno's Mills Act ordinance obligate the owner to, quote, preserve and, when necessary, to restore and rehabilitate the property to conform to the rules and regulations of the Office of Historic Preservation of the Department of Parks and Recreation, the United States Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, and the State Historical Building Code. So again, just so that the purpose of the Mills Act is clear, it is to preserve and, when necessary, restore or rehabilitate to those standards, and is not intended to incentivize other types of work. That said, ADUs are allowed in a historic district by state law, subject to certain standards that don't restrict their creation. State law, as you may know, is written to encourage ADUs, including in historic districts and historic properties. And so they cannot be restricted in that way, but would be subject to, nonetheless, the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation if it was done under a Mills Act contract. Those standards provide that a property will, quote, a property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. So conversion of a garage to an ADU would be acceptable under the Mills Act as long as the work met the Secretary of the Interior's standards. On the second question, the status of the solar permit, you can see a closer picture of the installation on the front of the home, which is also in your exhibits. There were 2 applications submitted relative to the installation of the solar panels here. One was a re-roof permit for purposes of installing the solar, and the second was the solar permit itself. The re-roof permit underwent review by historic preservation staff, and it was approved with the condition that all maintenance or replacement shall be done in kind, like for like, size, shape, materials, appearance, etc. The solar array shall be installed using the picture frame method. Clay tiles shall be reinstalled over the composite shingles so that the composite shingles are not visible or minimally visible where necessary, and no additional work shall be done that will alter the appearance or character-defining elements of the building. The solar installation was completed since the last meeting. It was completed on November 13th. It was completed with methods that, as you can see, are not in compliance with that condition that was applied to the re-roof permit, nor are those methods in line with the Secretary of the Interior standards regarding roof rehabilitation. Those standards are provided for you as Exhibit G, but there are a number of aspects that are not recommended in terms of removing original materials or changing the way that the roof materials are presented. Sorry, yes, that is the last of the images there. On the third question of whether the current ownership of the home is currently reflected in the Mills Act contract, the most recent grant deed that was recorded on January 22nd, 2025, does reflect the same person as the owner that is on the Mills Act contract. We did request a title report just to verify the chain of title. Unfortunately, it did not come in time for this meeting, although we asked for it immediately about a month ago. We were able to run a preliminary title report, which does indicate the same thing, that the ownership last changed on January 22nd, 2025, and the current owner is on the Mills Act contract. Lastly, on the question of short-term rentals, the city of Fresno does allow owners to rent property or a portion of a property to guests on a short-term basis, subject to them obtaining a short-term rental permit. That permit is required before the room can be rented or advertised, and the permit holder has to be the property owner. To get that short-term rental permit, the owners do need to get a zone clearance from the Planning and Development Department to confirm that the residential use is permitted on the property, but short-term rentals are permitted in districts zoned for single-family homes, so there is no prohibition on the owner of a home renting a room or portion or their home as on a short-term basis. It would only be declined in the event that a residential use was not permitted there, say it's a industrial property or a commercial property. So we have updated the conclusion and recommendation that staff is making on the Mills Act contract, given the new information that is available about the solar permit. Because the work around the solar installation does not meet the required contract provisions of the City of Fresno's Mills Act program, because the work already completed does not conform to the Secretary of the Interior standards, we are recommending that you hold the hearing and deny the application for a Mills Act historical property contract for this property. So happy to answer any questions, and we do have the applicant and, as Jennifer noted, a translator available.
And Chair, just to clarify, you've already held a public hearing and closed it. This is just the information that you requested at your last meeting.
So
Sir, we can't be
until we
having-
can call upon anybody, it would be considered an interruption of the meeting. So I have given that now. So given the information that Ashley's given us, are there any further questions from the commission?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner LeBlanc.
Ashley, on point 4 do you have information whether the applicant has actually applied for that permit that would be required?
I do not have that information for you tonight, no.
That would be relevant to me.
That would be relevant. Okay. Anyone else?
One more question.
Yep.
If there were mitigations done to the roof to be a little bit more in conformance with the Secretary of Interior standards, would they be able to come back and reapply for the Mills Act?
I don't think there is anything that would prevent them from doing that next year. At this point in the year, we would have to, we would not be able to process a Mills Act application further this year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioners? Okay.
It would be up to the chair if he would like to reopen the public hearing portion. So when you close a public hearing for deliberation, which you did at your last meeting, you can certainly continue the item to another meeting for additional information from staff. If you choose to reopen the public hearing, you would need to make a motion. It would need to be approved, and then you can reopen per your procedures.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I will ask the commission, are there any questions that we have of the applicant that have not been answered by staff? Okay.
No.
Seeing none, I will entertain if you want to hear additional public testimony. Now, if there is additional public testimony, it would need to be new evidence, not the same evidence. Is that correct? Or
Yeah,
would that
so Chair, if you choose to reopen the public hearing,
Yep.
individuals who have spoken previously may speak again for the 3 minutes per your procedures, based on the new information that was presented tonight. They can certainly speak again. So essentially, you would be starting a new, starting a new public hearing.
Okay. At this point, what I will do is I will entertain if anyone on the commission wants to, is open to having that, make a motion of that.
I'm willing to hear further testimony as long as it abides by the guidelines that you forementioned at the start of the meeting, so that testimony does not need to be stricken again.
Okay.
Because I think Commissioner Halaja was not at that last meeting, and it might be beneficial for him to hear directly.
Okay. So I will hear that motion. I will entertain, I will second it. So if there's anybody that's in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, so we will open public testimony. What I will note about public testimony is we are looking for items that are new in information and not the same information that was presented at the prior meeting. So if you have new information regarding the stuff that was presented tonight or new information that has come to light since that meeting, please come forward, state your name, and you will have 3 minutes at the podium.
Good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Tom Armstrong. I'm here with my wife, Kathy Armstrong. I filed a response because there was a continued hearing, and there was an issue as to title, and I'm just up here, as I understand, staff, and I don't think she's city attorney. I think attorney's there, right? You're with Planning Commission? Okay. At any rate, they have recommended that the application be denied. I understand that, right? Just want to make sure that we're clear with you folks. I didn't catch your name, ma'am, but ma'am, I respectfully suggest, or I would like to point out that her characterization of the applicant LLC that I've referenced in my paper that I filed with the clerk's office, that's the applicant making the application for the Mills Act tax advantage, incentive, if you will. That title that was transferred in January 22nd of 25 went from the LLC to an individual, okay? And that individual, I asked the lady in the clerk's office if she'd get you copies of that. Have you folks gotten copies of my paperwork? Okay, then that chain of title, that's from Fidelity Title, and I used them for many years while representing trustees, but it shows that the LLC on January 25th granted title, fee interest in that property to Lee, what is it? To Ki Jing Wang, okay? That's an individual person, a man. It says an unmarried man. That's just the form. I don't know if it's this person back here or not, but at any rate, I think the applicant needs to be that person, so I don't think you have any party here with standing before the commission to apply for Mills Act relief. The LLC doesn't own the property, so they're not entitled to the tax benefit, okay, out of hand. But if we have to go on to the other issues, I know there's some other folks here too that are our neighbors. My wife and I have learned from speaking with the Planning Commission that an application has been made to the city to operate an adult daycare, is that correct, Kathy? An adult daycare at the facility, and that's pending somewhere in the Murat with the Planning Commission. And I don't have those paperwork, but we'd like you to understand that. And we've had issues on the street in the past, and we've lived there for quite a number of years. We call it the Kennedy House. People bought that, and they tried to rent just rooms. There was issues with parking. There were incredible issues with garbage out back because there were 10 tenants in both houses, and 10 times one person's garbage is more than 3 or 4 in a regular house. So, those concerns need to be addressed. And is there anything else, Darren, that I can offer? Pardon me? They're renting without a permit.
All right.
So those are our points. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Good evening.
Record, state your name.
Good evening. I'll reintroduce myself from last month. My name is Edward Medrano. I live directly across the street from the property under consideration. My house is a designated historic resource, and I am under a Mills contract myself. I will try and not testify anything that's redundant from last month, but I'm sorry, I'm not an attorney, and I'm not experienced with these sort of things. I am a historian, and I am restoring a 100-year-old house. I restored my old house in West LA, and I'm restoring this one. I put in over $300,000 in restoration costs alone into my house, and I'm doing it the right way. The wrong way is to destroy features that are character from the street, and you can see by the evident pictures that they have destroyed the red tile roof on this house. It is not subtle. There is more solar panel visible than there are red tiles. Okay, this is the opposite of preservation. It sets a dangerous precedent for future Mills Act applicants to cite this example and demand other exceptions to be accepted in the future. The Mills contract specifies under Exhibit B, Property Maintenance Prohibitions, number 5, any device, decoration, design, structure, or vegetation which is unsightly by reason of its height, condition, or inappropriate location. These solar panels are not subtle, again. They're inappropriate located, and they destroy the character-defining feature of this house, the red tile roof. The second is something that we discussed. I'm sorry.
Just notice that you have 1 minute.
Oh, okay. The building is a business, and it's owned by a company, supposedly. It's been listed on Airbnb, and we were introduced to the facilities manager. Single-family dwellings don't have managers. Okay, so to cite the Mills Act contract again, Exhibit D, rehabilitation standards, and we've already heard from the nice lady who spoke before, a property shall be used for its historic purpose. And then it goes on to say that if it's in a new purpose, that'll have minimal changes. The historic purpose is a single-family dwelling. And any changes in that have implications in both the zoning regulations as well as the historic preservation standards for the house and the way it tracks the Mills contract. I guess that's my time's up.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public portion. And at this point, are there any other questions we have of staff? Okay. Yeah. At this time, if the applicant has anything they'd like to say with regards to this, they're free. They can come forward. Correct. Yeah, if the applicant would like to come forward and address this, they're free to. Okay, I'm going to ask our interpreter at this time. If there's something that they'd like to say, they need to come forward. Okay.
你说中文，我可以翻译。
一个是，关于太阳能，我们是得到了政府的申请批准的，
About the solar panel, we already get permission from the government.
然后我们也
And
提交
we-
了那个申请
提交给谁？
证明，就是他们那个
And we also submit the permission to the commission. I think that's what he tried to say. Because they show me it's like a pink receipt from the,
So, Chair,
I-
you aren't
I-
used to having translation services in your meetings.
No,
So, the applicant, if you'll state your name and your address for the record, and then if you will make your statement pausing every sentence or two for the translation, and that goes into the record, and you'll have 6 minutes.
Yep.
OK，他说要你先说你的名字和地址，然后呢，然后我再一句一句根据你说的我来翻译。
My name is KG Huang. The address is 3504 Huntington Broad, Fresno. 然后说中文，然后就是这个关于太阳能，我们是和政府申请了，政府批准了之后，我们才联系太阳能公司来安装的。
Okay, first of all, about the solar panel, we already applied first beforehand from the government, and after the permission, we install the solar panel, and we have the permission for that.
然后是
屋顶的修复。
屋顶，这个关于屋顶还有一些地方就是
因为是
砖瓦没有复原，是因为上2个星期一直下雨，这个安装瓦的工人他们就没有来，然后他们大概会在就是下个1-2周之内会回来把屋顶重新安回去。
About the roof restoration, because we know recently it's raining so hard, so the workers told us they will come back like next week or next 2 weeks. They will fix the roof.
然后是关于就是外面的，我们把房子外面就是油漆这些翻新，我们都是按照以前的颜色进行翻新的。然后那些外面有些栏杆啊、门这些，因为是坏的，所以说我们重新换的。
About the exterior, we repaint the wall according to the old color, and about the gate and the fence. 你说那个什么栅栏和那些是什么？
那些我们重新维修过了。
Oh,
就是
they have already
那些
fixed those
我们也
fence and
我们也就是那些以前那些坏，就是看着很烂的那些，给他们提供过照片的。
he said he already provide the photos about the broken walls and the fence. They already provide to commission. Yeah, that's what he told me.
那是。
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for that. So at this point, Commission, it's up to us as to where we want to go with this.
I'm concerned at the level of change that's been inflicted on the roof. through the solar panels and have questions as to really whether that's along the guidelines that the city would have provided to them. Are we battling two different entities with the interior guidelines versus, because I've never seen a historic property have that much leeway to put that many panels and change the structure that much. So I'm confused about that.
So Commission, the action in front of you is whether or not to approve the Mills Act.
Right.
So, as was stated at the last hearing, the Solar Rights Act of California really gives broad rights to property owners to place solar panels regardless of whether or not they're on a historic property, along with some other rights that we talked about at the last hearing. The question in front of you today is they are asking, it's not whether or not the roof is okay or the solar panels are okay. It's whether or not to grant the Mills Act based on the required provisions, which the assistant director talked about in her hearing in terms of preserve and when necessary restore and rehabilitate the property to conform to the rules, and it includes Office of Historic Preservation, DPR here at the state of California, Secretary of Interior Standards for the treatment of historic properties, as well as the State Historic Building Code. So based upon the additional information that was provided to you tonight, it would not conform to those instances. So Commissioner, to your question, the roof question is, and the solar panels that have been installed, they were installed with appropriate permits. There is additional work they're going to need to complete to comply with those permits, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it now qualifies for Mills Act. So that's the question in front of you tonight, is not whether or not the work was done in conformance with a building permit or per state law. It's whether or not the Mills Act can be granted based on the information that you have.
And that's my understanding as well, Director Clark, was that, yes, the solar permit was done properly, but the situation that we have at hand is exactly that, is the Mills Act that we have in front of us acceptable or not, and based on where the building sits today, given the fact there's been alterations that have not been met under the Secretary of Interior standards, that it's not necessarily there today. It could come back in a year and be there again, but it needs to start to meet those Secretary of Interior standards rather than meet whatever some contractor or somebody else has been telling others what they need to do with that property. Commissioner Halajian?
If the resource was adopted into the Mills Act, would that afford additional protections that would preclude further degradation? Does that question make sense?
Yes, it does. So the Mills Act requires that the property be maintained to not only the State Historic Building Code or the Department of Parks and Recreation. It additionally says that it must be maintained to the Secretary of Interior standards. So it obligates the owner to preserve and to restore and rehabilitate to those standards. So the question is, would it give more authority in prohibiting any kind of exterior modifications? The answer to that would be yes, more so than the Historic Preservation Ordinance. Has some control and guidance, but allows a lot more flexibility. This does not provide for flexibility to a property owner, whereas now you can determine, okay, that modification is okay, it's not great, but it's generally in conformance. This would require conformance to the standards.
So just so I'm clear, if the property is accepted in the Mills Act, there is no leeway in terms of making modifications that would not be acceptable to the Secretary of the Interior.
Correct.
So that it actually puts more restriction on the property owner to maintain the historic character of the property. Is that correct?
Correct.
Would you say more so than the district it's within? There's some protections because it's within the district.
More so than the historic preservation ordinance. That is correct. And the commission can, at any time, their annual inspections. At the annual inspection can determine, and you did this last year, actually, you canceled some contracts for not complying with either their program of restoration or with other reasons, right? So you have canceled contracts.
Okay. I think the question that the Vice Chair Hatwig had, Director, was, are there, in that historic district, are there restrictions that are even higher than it was if it was just an individual resource?
No.
Okay. Okay.
And council, we being informed that the property at this time is not in compliance with the Mills Act standards, do we even have the authority to approve a contract? Right.
So degraded, is it still, yeah, is that your point?
Because
Darcy Brown, Deputy City Attorney. If you determine that the resource is eligible to be a historic resource, then you may recommend approval of the Mills Act contract.
despite it being out of compliance at this time.
So if it's out of compliance at this time, one of the requirements would be to bring it into compliance.
So I have maybe a question back to the owner. He mentioned that the workers were going to come back and fix the roof. What did that mean? Are they going to remove the asphalt shingles and
Yes.
replace them with,
So
what does that mean,
let's-
fix the roof?
Can we have our applicant and the interpreter come back up?
And while they're coming back up, from what I recall from last meeting, what that means is the tile is to tuck under to the edges of the solar panels as if it doesn't look like there's nothing but tile.
So
That was what our understanding was at the
the
time.
visible asphalt shingles will be covered with tile, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
But
was-
maybe not the entire roof covered with those tiles, but the shingles won't be visible from the street. Meaning they're underneath the solar panels and the last tile is tucked to the edge of the solar panel.
So what he's saying is that there will still be asphalt shingle underneath the solar panel, but to your answer, Paul, that's correct. It's supposed to come right up to the solar panel and not be visible in that sense.
So the top of the solar panel will be essentially flush with the top of the tile?
Yes.
Okay.
Please come forward. He actually already did, thank you.
Can you repeat what that was, because nobody can hear?
I caught it as Ki Huang, so. I caught it as Ki Huang. I heard Ki Huang, okay? So, thank you. What I will say is if you can answer his question is to what extent when the workers are expected back, like a date, and what their work is going to be, and I'll turn it over to Paul here so he can finish.
You mentioned that the workers were going to come back and fix the roof. What does that mean? How are they going to fix the roof?
他说你就是刚才提到说那些工人会回来修缮那个屋顶，他说是什么意思？
就是他那个太阳能要把屋顶拆了嘛，拆了一些砖瓦，然后他现在太阳能板已经安上了，但是有一些砖瓦还没有把它复原，就是有一些地方还是空着的。那工人会回来把它把变重新。
Okay. He mentioned about some workers will come back to fix the roof because in order to install the solar panel, they will have to take off some the parts of the roof so they can settle the solar panel on the roof. But till now, they haven't fixed everything since it's raining.
What I don't understand is why
Because in order to install the solar panel on the roof, they will have to destroy some parts to install the solar panel. So
that's not necessarily how solar panels go in.
that's
So
what he said.
I understand that's what he's saying, but I don't understand why the tiles were removed in the first place. And I don't understand what it means to fix the roof.
装这个 solar panel 的时候是不需要拆屋顶的，为什么会要拆屋顶？他说他不懂为这个。我跟他说了。
我们怎么知道？
I don't know why they couldn't include
那
them
是
on the
太阳
tile
能
roof.
公司和这个太阳能，我们又不知道怎么装，我们也是联系的政府批准的时候，我们联系的公司啊，对方公司怎么做，我们怎么知道他们怎么做？
He said, I have no idea since I'm not a professional. After the permission from the government, we like hired a professional come here. We don't know how to install the solar panel, but as we know, they have to get rid of some roof and then to install. And then since it's raining, so they haven't restored everything now. But the solar panel is permitted by the government, by the commission.
The allowance of the solar panel is understood that you can put solar panels on a building. The way in which it was done is problematic. That's the problem, how they were installed, not whether you could install them. We agree you're entitled to put solar panels. What we're questioning is the quality of the work and the way in which the panels were installed. That's the problem we have. It appears as though the historical value of the entire structure has been destroyed because of how the panels were installed.
他说就是不知道这个你们这个 solar panel 是怎么装的，为什么会把那些上面会拆？
这个要怎么装是对方装这个太阳能的公司的人，他们怎么做的？我们又怎么知道他们要怎么做？这是对方公司要怎么做，我们就肯定只有按照他公司说的做呀。
He said,
我们不可能我们去叫他怎么做。
we are not professional. We are not professional working for the solar panel company.
Okay.
We have no idea.
That is understood. We
Yeah.
understand you're not a roofer. We understand that. We know that. But you are responsible because you're the owner. And if you've hired someone who has done a
他说你有责任。
substandard job on a historic property, that's not allowed. That's what we have a problem with.
OK， 他说。
So we're not blaming you, we're blaming the person who did the
不
work.
是说你的 solar panel 不能装，是你在安这个 solar panel 的时候，你作为一个屋主，作为一个房主，你对这个历史建筑就是有这个，就是怎么说？你要监督它怎么施工啊什么的。他说不是说不让你装 solar panel。
那么现在他回答我嘛，我们是提交了申请的，然后所有申请都通过了的，然后我们拿到了许可证，然后联系了太阳能公司，太阳能公司来装，然后这有什么？然后难道怎么说？他已经同意了我们装了，我们才开始装的，我们并没有自己擅自装嘛。
对他现在的意思就是说 ，solar panel 是同意你装的，但是呢，就是你要作为一个屋主，作为一个 对历史文物保护的这样的一个意识，也就是说你要能够确保它这个东西，这个历史文物是受到保护的。
那是受到保护的呀。我们拆了之后会重新把瓦片装回去嘛，然后瓦片上面的那个是太阳能板嘛，我们不可能把太阳能板，那我们怎么装
？He said we submit the application, we get approval, and we how to say we install the solar panel according to the permission. So he still insists he's not a professional solar panel company. They install everything. They know how to do that.
我们现在是太阳能板放在
And I think that's been beaten over. We know that,
Yeah,
that's the
explained. I
case.
said solar panel permission is not a problem. The problem is the process. Why they have to destroy the roof and install the solar panel?
但是你要
Right,
But
and,
he said he is not a professional.
We know that.
He has
no, we know that.
Yeah, so we get a permission, we submit the application, we get the permission, and we hire the solar panel company, and they install the solar panel for us, since we are not professionals for solar panel.
Right.
Yeah.
Where we're having an issue is not about the permit, it's not about the solar company professional, it's about the fact that because it's a historic property, there should be special considerations taken from those professionals and from the property owner to make sure that the historic portion of the property is not damaged. And that's where the concern lies right now with the application, is that the application itself is asking for us to grant the reprieve of the tax, some of the tax burden on the property in accordance for maintaining the property to a higher standard of the historic level of it. And the trouble that we're seeing is with this project, okay, is we saw the project done, but we didn't see the project done in a way that was respectful to the historic nature of the building. And to add to that, I have my doubts about the fact that they can bring the tiles right up to the solar panels after they've done that. And I'll say this why, just for the record. We do have another historic property that did a very similar project with red tile roof, and they still had to maintain a fire access around those solar panels. So I'm pretty sure that the way that you see that roof right now is the way that roof is going to look. They might add a few more tiles back, but they're going to have to maintain a gap all the way around the edge of that. It's not going to come right up to it, okay? So the issue is not about the permit for the solar. It's not about the solar being installed. It's about the fact that there was not a historic, a level of care, thank you, taken to the actual nature of it being a historic property. And because of that, we're having a concern about awarding this Mills Act agreement because of the fact that with it being already kind of previous knowledge and experience, if you will. We've seen what has occurred already with a single project. We don't know what the next 10 years of projects are going to look like, whether we're just going to be awarding a tax incentive to watch a building be essentially, stripped here, torn there, added on to create, whether it be a residence, whether it's multifamily, whether it becomes an adult day health care, whether it becomes, a short-term rental, whatever the purpose of the building is, that's again, not in question. But it's the actual historic nature and historic aspect of it being maintained going forward. Did I kind of land that for everybody? Okay.
I think I'd like to just add that
just give him a moment, Paul.
他说他明白说你这个什么装solar panel要拆除一部分的那个 红色瓦的那个屋顶，他说他看不到说你们能够，他说因为上面可能还要装一个火灾的一个什么出口啊，还是怎样的，然后他说这个东西不可能是完全就是恢复原样，装了solar panel之后，这个屋顶不可能恢复成原样。他说就是从这个的考量，不是说你不让你装solar panel，还有就是根据这个什么 act 的这个东西，他说就是你要完全，你作为一个屋主，你对这个历史文物有这个保护责任，而且他不希望看到说以后将来，这里有坏一点啊，那你拆一点啊，外墙啊什么的，这里坏一点，那你拆一点什么的，最后说的就是这个意思。他说他不管，就是你这个房子以后的用途是什么，是你自己住还是什么出租什么，好像是他刚刚是这样子说的。然后他主要是在强调这个，你对这个历史文物的，就是这个房子，这个历史性的这样的一个保护。
对，虽然说是历史性保护，但是我们拆除了就是装那个太阳能板，就是拆除了装瓦之后，现在太阳能装好了，然后剩下那些缝隙这些，剩下的瓦片我们也会装回去啊。现在没有装回去是因为工人还没有回来嘛，因为前段时间在下雨，工人没有做完嘛，然后接下来工人就会回来重新把瓦片重新安装回去啊。
等一下，我跟他说。He said, we understand the historical protection, this part, but after the installation, the solar panel installation, I know there's little gaps here and there, but we will try to install back the tiles, like the same corner, we will install back. We haven't because the workers, they haven't came back yet, so that's why, but they said they will fix it. They will install back those red tile roof we try to make it like how it was before.
Okay.
Yeah, he said he knows gaps here and there. He said, but the workers, they will come back because recently the weather is not good for them to do that.
So what I wanted to comment on was when you're working with historic properties, great care and sensitivity has to be applied to any work you do. You have to understand the nuances of the items that are considered character defining, and the roof on your property is one of the most significant character defining features. So without great sensitivity to the nuances of what makes that property special, you lose its value, and the value has been lost. And it's number one on your list of things to do. So right from the beginning, what we're seeing is a lack of sensitivity and awareness of what makes your property unique. There are other items on this list that you're going to have to use great care and sensitivity to make the remedies that you're saying you're going to do. From the beginning, we're seeing that there is a lack of sensitivity and an understanding of the nuances of what makes your project special. So it gives us great concern that the number one thing has not been done with care. So how can we approve the rest of this if the number one thing was not done well at all? That's our concern.
Thank you for clarifying that. We had some clarifying information with regards to that for the commission.
Chair, before you make your determinations, just a reminder that you are required to consider the project, the Mills Act application, based on the current condition of the property. The question of the roof permit is not the question at hand. So the question is, based on the current condition of the property and the proposed list of projects in the contract, can you make the findings that this contract would preserve and, when necessary, restore and rehabilitate the property to conform, I'm going to abbreviate, to the Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. And on page 101 of your Exhibit G, it specifically talks about, this is the Weeks and Grimmer Guide, installing mechanical and service equipment, including solar panels, on character-defining elevations. So it specifically says installing rooftop mechanical or service equipment so that it damages or obscures character-defining roof features or is conspicuous on the site or from the public right-of-way is not recommended under the Secretary of Interior standards. So that is the question at hand, is about the Mills Act, not whether or not the roof permit or the solar permit should have been granted. It does not preclude the applicant from coming back in a future year and reapplying after they have restored or repaired any damage that has been done.
Okay. All right. Any other follow-up items from the commission?
One question, there was I think an assertion from the public that there isn't a correct legal entity in place. Is that correct?
So, and I'm going to try to, that was last meeting. We had a question. Yes, we had a question regarding last meeting about the question of the entity and who that was. That was what Ashley was addressing earlier, was that through their additional research from the prior month to this month, they were able to match up those legal entities. Ashley, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. So, sorry about that. Ashley's going to make comment.
So the legal entity named in the Mills Act contract is the legal entity on the latest grant deed. So that has been confirmed. It does look, based on what the gentleman showed me, that our hearing notice went out with the previous applicant's name on it. There was, when we prepared the hearing notice, I think we had one grant deed, and then we received the second grant deed and did not update the hearing notice. But the contract itself does have the name of the current individual in ownership as named on the January 22nd grant deed.
Okay. Did that clarify that? Okay. Okay. With that, I think we're kind of at a point where we need to land this. My understanding from what we've seen tonight and where we are is I think this first step was a bad step, and I do think that there is an opportunity in the future, but I feel that we need to go with staff's recommendation and currently deny, with the idea that in the future year, if the applicant comes back and has a better understanding of what's necessary, makes the repairs necessary, that we're then more open to entertain it at that time. So I would say that I would move for staff's recommendation is to deny the application currently.
Question?
Yeah.
Again, if we were to grant this, there's even more stringent requirements that would provide additional protections to the property. Is that correct?
Yes.
So by denying it, there's fewer restrictions on its maintenance as a historic property. Is that right?
Yes, that would be the case as well. But I feel at the same time that, and I see what you're saying. I mean, I totally understand the idea that I would want them to be more restrictive, but I think what we're setting ourselves up for now is that if we were to say that tonight with the way it's set up, that the example of their 2026, how do we know that that's going to be followed correctly? And then at the same time, how are we going to actually come back and really enforce it? Because even when we did Mills, when we've done Mills Act before, you know, we have done our review, we did our review last year, but it hasn't been always done consistently as a commission, and honestly with our specialists, where we haven't had it on every single year, somebody's, you know, that there's a review. So until we actually have that type of policing action, I don't know how we're able to say that, yeah, we want to put more restrictions, but we're still not going to necessarily be able to watch it for you. Because at the same time, it's like, yeah, we put the more restrictions, but we have no real way of saying that you followed the further restrictions, or you just went your own way.
And I think that is my understanding. As much as I would like to put further restrictions on this property, seeing the state that we're in right now and the list of things that are intended, if we are meant to judge the condition as it stands now, as advised by council, then we cannot possibly approve a Mills Act contract for this property in the condition that it stands now, regardless of whether the rain came or whatever.
So you're saying if it wasn't approved now, then the situation that we would have is we could never really approve one?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that at this moment in time,
Got it.
if we are meant to judge the property on its current condition, that we can't take potential future action such as contractors coming back and fixing the roof further, because we have no evidence that that's going to happen, and what that might look like. And it still may have damaged the root work that's being done, and even the remediation that is proposed by the owner may not be sufficient to keep this as a historic property based on some of the things that were done without care on its defining feature being the roof.
Okay.
To paraphrase your point, is it that it has been so damaged that it has lost its historic integrity and therefore not worthy of Mills Act consideration?
Yes.
And I think where I draw the line with that too is it wasn't like the roof was dilapidated already.
Right.
It was created now into this condition, and it wasn't through weather or age where we have allowed people to re-roof with Mills Act dollars, right? That there's a kind of a little different scenario with that. That makes it a little more clear to me as to let's put our best foot forward and do the repairs, and when that's done, then maybe next year, maybe that Mills Act is something that is a little bit more understood, and then we have a winner on that.
Okay. So are we good in the idea that we want to currently deny it with the idea of it coming back, or do we have another question? What? Sorry. I did have a motion. Yeah, I did have a motion, and I didn't get a second.
I'm going to give you a second.
Okay. So we do have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation to
At this
currently
time.
deny the application. Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we pass 5-0. All right, thank you. We will now move on to the next continued item, which is item 6B, and that is continued item 25-1593, hearing to consider and make findings on the billing application for the re-roof permit of the Wild Home. Okay, Ashley?
Okay, again, this is a continued item. You held a noticed public hearing. I'm sorry, I should have introduced myself again. Ashley Atkinson, Assistant Director for Planning and Development. Again, you held a noticed public hearing on October 27th to consider this application. We had extensive discussion during which the applicant provided new information that had not been previously available to staff, which was that the existing wood shake roof had been installed on top of the original wood shingle roof, which had a lower profile, especially given the aging of the current roof today. It's not clicking. There we go. So again, this is the roof as it appears today, and then a second set of photos shows the original roof as seen from inside the garage, and also the photo on the right shows how the existing shake roof is installed on top of the original shingle roof, which you can see it's a very faint sort of red circle there at the bottom, but that is the original layer of shingles. The commission discussed the lack of photographic evidence at the last hearing, given that there was only one historic photo available. We were not able to find any additional historic photos, but again, did obtain these photos of the underside of the garage and the edge of the roof, and also a photo of the comparison of the thickness between a shake and a shingle. On Monday, November 17th, the Architectural Review Subcommittee met to review these additional photos, and then based on review of these photos and further discussion with the applicant, the subcommittee approved a recommendation to the commission that Certainty's Presidential Shake Solaris is a compatible substitute material for the original wood shingle roof, with the condition that the product shall be in the autumn blend color, which is a brown, as opposed to the original selected color, which was a shadow gray. So our recommendation, again, forwarding the recommendation of the Architectural Review Subcommittee, is that the commission review the new information and either adopt a finding of categorical exemption and approve the application with the condition that the replacement roof will use a compatible substitute material that conveys the same appearance of the original wood shingles as opposed to the existing wood shakes, or deny the application. So with that, I can take any questions, and we do have the applicants here as well.
Yep. All right, any other questions from the commission? Okay.
Did you need a breakdown from the subcommittee?
Yes,
Who reviewed
that was
it?
my next thing, is to kind of get notes from the subcommittee as to what you guys discussed.
Yeah, it was fascinating kind of seeing the roofing material that was on the underlayment, and then there were several layers of another roofing material that had gone on years and years after. The estimate is probably about 60 years old or 50 years old, somewhere in that ballpark, with that style of wood versus the underlayment, which was the shingle style. So it seemed to make sense with the presidential roofing material that was being proposed, with regards, the exception being the color had to be upgraded or modified to match as close to authentic as possible.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything to add?
Anything to add?
I think the only thing I would add is there's nothing as good as the real thing, but it's a kind of industry established fallback that is accepted far and wide. So I don't think it's as good as the real thing, but I think it's the best we can do.
Yeah, and the one thing I did provide is I did provide a photo that we got from the library from 1961, which proved further that that roof had been on there a lot longer than even anybody else had thought it had been on there. So instead of it being only 40 years old, that roof was closer to 65 years old. I don't think I have anything else regarding this. So I think I mean, any comments on this? Any motion?
With the exception of comp in this scenario, it's really comes down to a lot of owners can't put wood back on because of fire hazards and code requirements and restrictions. So it leads us to searching for the alternate material. There's other materials that look probably even closer to wood, but they don't work in this climate zone because they'll buckle and break and bend, and they're extremely costly. So this is the best solution that we can provide in this scenario. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Motion to approve to adopt and approve regarding item 1 of the staff recommendation for the replacement of the roof with that asphalt composite. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right.
Did we need to go to public hearing?
No, because technically this was a public hearing that we had prior, so it was closed last meeting. And I mean, unless you feel that we want to go back out, okay. So we do have a motion and a second. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we pass 4-0.
Clarification that include the color change specifically.
Yes,
Okay.
it did. Okay. All right. That was easy, and we were able to move on. So now we're going to move on to our commission items, item 7. We do have an item that is going to be removed from the agenda and moved to our December meeting. So we will go ahead and move on to item 7B, and that's the hearing to consider application B25-03423 for facade renovations to the Rosenbergs Brothers Packing House located at 1844 South Cherry.
Okay, good evening again, Chair and Commission. Ashley Atkinson, Assistant Director for Planning and Development. As I think you recall, you have seen this application before. You did hold a hearing on June 23rd and approved this application with conditions. You also, on that same date, recommended the property for designation as a local historic resource, which it was designated on October 16th. So those two actions were completed at that time. The application, as it was presented to you in June, reflected that it consisted of interior upgrades for HVAC access and circulation, and exterior improvements including new glazing, replacement doors, replacement window covers, and replacement canopies, and also paint. So that is the application that you reviewed and approved with the condition that 3 items go back to the Architectural Review Subcommittee. Those items were the glazing, the new glazing, the profile of the new metal panels, and the profile of the replacement canopy. So that was the approval that you issued in June. On November 7th, it was observed that demolition of the brick spandrels between the windows was taking place, and that was not part of the permit that had been issued or the approval that this commission had given. A stop work order was issued on that day and is still in place for the exterior, but quite a bit of the brick had already been removed at that time. There are some photos in your exhibits, and I'll show a few as well. The brick spandrels are named as a character-defining feature in the Department of Parks and Recreation form. We first went to the Architectural Review Subcommittee to ask how they would like to handle the issue, and they unanimously agreed that the full commission should review this. So I'll go through some photos, which are also in the exhibit. You can see that some of the brick is remaining in certain locations. but on the long north and south facades, it has been mostly removed and is only in place, as I said, in certain locations. The applicant has represented that it was always their intent to remove the brick, and that it was a discrepancy in the drawings, so that this was something that they thought that they had permission to do. You do have, just as reference, you have a print copy of the originally submitted demolition elevations. We did not include those in exhibits because of the copyright restrictions on plans. So you'll see, I think you have two things in front of you. There's one that shows the thermal fixed and projected windows and a colored elevation. It is not that. It is the completely black and white set of demolition elevations. So that is for your reference in terms of that is what staff reviewed when presenting this project to you in June. And that is what led our building and safety staff and our historic preservation staff to believe that demolition was not part of the scope of work. The applicant has represented that the third page that you have in front of you, the page A6.1.1, does indicate their intent to demolish the brick in order to attach the new metal panels to the concrete underneath. The elevations that you reviewed did show the concrete panels, or sorry, the corrugated metal panels going from the top of the third floor to the top of the first floor. That is how the panels look today, and that is how the panels would look in the future. But the brick underneath them, it was the applicant's intent to remove that brick to attach those new panels. So again, because removal of that brick represents a permanent alteration to one of the character-defining features, we have brought this back to review by the full commission. The applicants are online. I will note that they are eager to get input on those three items that were conditionally approved: the glazing, the profile of the panels, and the metal canopy. So if you're willing to entertain those items here today in this commission meeting, instead of having another architectural review subcommittee meeting, they are prepared to discuss those, and that is the second set of materials that has been provided with the colored elevations. And Carrie, I believe, also has some materials available online for those as well. With that, I can take any questions. And do we have the applicant online, Carrie? Okay, great.
Okay, do we have any clarifying questions?
There were three, at the last Architectural Review Committee, there were three items that we wanted to make sure were addressed, right? And one of them was keeping the ones that are left on the main facade, right? And there were two others. Do you recall the other two items we had?
Well, I thought we wanted product data on the corrugated metal and the actual window. Yep. That they're proposing.
Yeah,
right.
And then on the actual window, it was discussed too that might be something when we get even a physical, either something, a rendering or whatever it might be, to make sure that the buttons in between, right, really matched up with the initial windows that we had reviewed.
So I would invite the applicant to discuss what they have made available. We just received these materials earlier today.
Great.
So to the extent that they respond to those requests, I'll let them go over that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. You've got Wells. Oh, came in a little loud.
You're very loud, Wells.
Wells
Let us turn you down.
With the ownership side here. Thank you for having us tonight. I know in the materials that we shared, we showed the elevations, which we're showing in our conversations with the historic subcommission last week, that we would leave the existing brick that is still there. And then on that south On the South Cherry side, we would replace that brick in kind. And you can see that now on the screen right here of what we're proposing. So that's one item. And then the other two items, and I'm looking at our notes from our meeting last week, were the metal coverings for the existing window openings. You all had asked for the specs of that. And then you also wanted to understand our plan for the existing concrete canopy, which when we met back in June, we were proposing to demolish that. We are no longer demolishing that. We are leaving that existing canopy and we'll install new storage units below. So I've got my design team here with me, and we are here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Before we do that, we will go out to the public. Is there anybody that'd like to speak on this item? Please come forward. Okay, seeing none, I'll close that public portion and bring it back to the commission for any questions for that team.
So just to clarify, these demolition elevations, this is what was presented to the commission when this first came before us. Is that correct, these elevations?
So this was not presented to the commission. This is what was reviewed by staff. And we presented the construction elevation to the commission. So this is intended to illustrate what staff believed was permitted in terms of what was to be demolished, because if you take a look at D5.1.1, the brick is not indicated for demolition there.
But Keynote 5 specifically says it's demolished.
So we have discussed Keynote 5, and this was reviewed by two architects on staff, and neither of them interpret that note that way.
Okay. So I guess it looks like we have the information on the windows, but we don't have the corrugated metal information. Is that right?
We submitted everything over a few hours before this meeting.
Okay.
In a link to Ashley and team.
So Carrie does have some of the information available online that she can pull up for us to see there.
It's an MBCI product, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have my design team on the call as well, so if you can mute Garrett Wellman or Michael Urseg, they might be able to talk to the specs a little bit more detail.
And how is it? It's you're fastening with a fastener through the face of it with a washer? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, there would be an integral color fastener to match the same color as the metal panel.
On the window product, the Winco 3250 series, the details we have looks like the applied muntin, the SR-8, is applied to the exterior only. Looking at their website, they do make the SR-8 with a muntin between the panes of glass and one on the inside, so that it looks like a true divided light. Can you provide that?
Yes, we can. And that's where we were looking for a little direction. So if you can tell us that's the one you'd want, that's the one we'll go with.
Just looking at their website, there is another SR-8 that is what I just described. It has the muntin between the panes and a muntin applied on the interior face. They're both SR-8s, but that's the one I think we would prefer, the one that appears like a true divided light.
SR-8. Okay. We will update that and submit that back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
And Again, I do want to go back to the point of when we initially submitted our plans, we did not have plans of going historic. And that's where it was always our intent to demolish that brick because we were never in that process of the character defining characteristics. So when our plans were submitted and when we went to you all back in June, we showed those elevations. That was always our intent. What brought us back here, as Ashley mentioned, was when there was the misunderstanding. And as we have mentioned, I think you just mentioned as well, you know, that demolition sheet, we do call for the removal of the brick on there with that note. But I just want to make it very clear, we had no intent of trying to go around anything. This was just always our intent with our plans and what we were bringing to the city. So just wanted to share that.
So with the removal of that spandrel, is it just going to be that corrugated sheet metal in replacement of that spandrel?
Yes, replacement of the spandrel on the South Cherry side, the front side. And then on the other elevations, we would have the corrugated metal all the way down as we had planned.
So only the South Cherry side would have the spandrel remain. The other three sides would just have corrugated sheet metal from first to third floor.
Correct.
Okay.
Do you have a color in mind for the corrugated sheet metal?
Yes, it's on our elevation, I
Sorry.
believe.
Thank you, sorry.
I think one big win, though, is the canopy is remaining, so that's kind of something that, you know, really helps a lot with the situation.
Yeah. Has your team evaluated what provisions you may be able to get from now being able to comply with the historic building code?
We designed the building to meet current codes. Is that, and maybe I'm not answering that correctly. Is that your question? Did we take into account historic building codes versus updated
I mean,
building codes?
I assume that any building that's going to come through is going to be for current codes. But now that it is under that historic review, you do have the option to go California historic building codes, which may allow for certain leeway where you may have, right now you have to meet the certain, those specific standards in the 2022 requirements, but because it's a historic building code, there may be exemptions or options of things that you don't have to do as a result of that.
We haven't looked into it too much. We've just been trying to continue on the path we're on. We've spoken about it briefly, but with where we are of trying to continue moving out here and deliver this product, we've just decided as of right now to continue as designed, which was to the current code.
Okay. And then I guess what I'm understanding too, and I'll let the review committee correct me or Ashley, but we're really only going to focus on the Cherry Avenue side of this building, even though it's really kind of visual from a 360-degree angle.
That was our proposal based off our meeting last week.
I mean, staff has not provided that recommendation, but it was discussed at the architectural review subcommittee meeting.
So just so I'm clear, on the south on the south elevations, the long elevations, where there was a window on the third and one on the second with this divided by a spandrel, there will now be a very large vertically oriented corrugated metal infill panel. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that was also in the original elevations that were approved in June. It's just that we were unaware that the brick spandrel would no longer exist under that panel.
Okay.
Yeah, from a visual perspective, our elevations, besides that east elevation, has not changed at all. The metal panel was always going to be shown the way it looks on there. The assumption from staff, from what we've learned over the last couple of weeks, was that they thought we were going to cover the brick with the metal panel. So the brick would never have actually been seen. It was always going to be metal panel.
So I have some consternation about that. And this is not necessarily for you. I'm actually talking to staff, just as a FYI. I have some consternation about that was not kind of clarified better, because I think our understanding as a commission was, yes, there's metal panels where the old windows used to be, and there was going to be panel for panel replacement, but the spandrels would remain in place. I think that was our understanding, and not necessarily, and that they were going to remain exposed because they were exposed prior, not necessarily they're just going to be covered over.
I think we could pull up the elevations that you reviewed in June if you would like to see them again. But the panels that existed up until recently, that had been in place for many decades, did cover the entire span from the third floor to the first floor. And that is also what the elevations showed that were reviewed in June. Would you like to see if we can pull up the elevations that were reviewed in June?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah, if you have the full file, Carrie, yes, then I don't know what page they're on, but they're going to be towards the end of that file. I think you could safely just scroll down to 50 or so, and they will have color. There they are. So they are indicating the panel covering from, again, the top of the third floor to the bottom of the second floor. And then you see the horizontal shading behind that to indicate the division between the floor. That the intent of the applicant was that represents the concrete underneath the corrugated panel. If it was perceived differently, I don't think it was discussed at the last meeting.
And I know I'm probably gonna sound like a simpleton, okay? But I could pull up Google Maps and I can see that the spandrel was exposed as far back as 2015. So I don't know how we got the idea that the metal was already covering it, when you could literally pull up a map and see that was metal, spandrel metal. And then that was not, that was how it was going to be, that's how it always had been, and that's how it was going to be. I knew the metal was covering the windows, we knew that, but I distinctly, have that recollection, and honestly, I could pull it up and show you just on a street view of the spandrel has been exposed for quite some time and not just covered by metal.
I would like to point out the metal panel won't go from third floor all the way down to the bottom. That concrete horizontal aspect, that will be the concrete that you see in those photos. Just want to clarify that, and also just one last item. I mean, this elevation is what we presented. It's what we came to you all with, and again, we were not trying to go around any way or anything like that. It was our assumption that everyone understood our intent. We received 3 comments from the commission for the items we discussed a little earlier about the windows, the canopy, and the metal panel. If the brick had been brought up, obviously that would have been brought into account, but we moved forward with what we thought we were being told to do.
And if it's any, and this is Michael with Tharco Murray, if it's any help to kind of illustrate the intent that we were working with here, that cross-sectional view on A6.1, I think is kind of really helpful and basically shows the complete intent that we walked in with back in June. I don't know if that could be pulled up.
So in the original submittal or the one you submitted today?
No, this submittal right here that's on the board.
The original.
Yeah, the original.
Okay, this is the original, so you would like to see which page?
A6.
Yeah, just for those who may not have seen it from the last meeting, A6.1.
One page up, Carrie. Just click up. It should take you there. It's where you were, that one. Click up one more time. There.
That says A5.
He's looking
Maybe
Okay.
am I in
for
the
the
wrong?
wall section.
You can go down.
Sorry, I might have that page number wrong. It was the cross-sectional view.
That.
Oh, yep,
No, yeah, that's it.
yep, there you go.
Okay. Yeah. And the commission does have a paper copy of this page as well.
Yep, so if you just see the notes there, in order to create the thermal envelope inside the building, which is now going to be climate controlled, of course, it was pretty difficult to do with the solid brick spandrel there. So you can see the notes here where the intention was to demolish the existing brick wall and cap in addition to the window and metal panel cover in order to replace that section with the new stud wall and metal panel infill. So just to clarify what was the intention when we submitted this in June, for those that might not have seen this.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Or comments?
You can provide that true divided light look and that MBCI metal cladding you proposed. I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
I agree.
So, this was just a hearing at the moment. I don't see, let me double check my notes real quick. So, your motion, Commissioner Halajian, is to approve with those
Did you open
comments?
the hearing to the public? I'm sorry.
We
Maybe
did.
I missed it. Okay,
did.
thank you. Sorry.
So it's just to approve with those recommendations?
Correct.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 7C, which is our annual reappointment of subcommittees. Now, I do want some clarification, Director Clark, given that these are currently standing subcommittees, will these have to go through that resolution now that it's been made going forward to reappoint?
Typically, each year, the commission, and we can confirm via resolution if you want to, but typically each year, you've gone through the list and say whether or not you're willing to serve on that committee again a following year, and then it would just continue. We wouldn't need to do any kind of new resolution.
Okay, very good. All right, so we'll start off with the Architectural Review Subcommittee. So I know we can speak to two of our members here if they're going to be willing to serve going forward on that committee. So Commissioners Halajian and Vice Chair Hatwig, are you guys still good?
I'm okay, yeah.
Okay. And then our next one is the Economic Incentive Program Subcommittee. And so Paul?
Yep.
Okay. Historic Names Subcommittee, that's myself and Commissioner Laval. Okay. And then our Historic Preservation Month Subcommittee, which is Yumi and Commissioner Eddings. Okay. Our Historic Property Disclosures Committee. Okay. Signs and Plaques Subcommittee. Julie, are you good to remain on that one?
Yes.
Okay. And then our Archaeology Subcommittee for you as well.
Yes.
Okay. Is there, at this point, are we looking at, potential that we might need something, or any of these subcommittees maybe no longer necessary? At this point, open to any comments.
I think they're all very important.
Okay.
And relevant still.
All right. And then I know, Director, we, during our kind of our agenda meetings, we've had a conversation about the potential of having a my mind just went blank right now. An actual
Municipal code review?
Update review committee. Is that something that you're still interested in us forming to assist you?
So if the commission is interested in nominating or appointing a couple of members to serve on a municipal code review subcommittee, we can bring that back at a future to create a new committee, but you can let us know who might be interested in serving on that. I think it could be helpful to review the Muni Code and bring it up to date. It's been a couple years since it was last updated.
Does that sound like anybody would be interested in assisting with? Okay.
Being as I play in the code every day, I think, but I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do is we'll bring at a future date a resolution to create that subcommittee and establish members. And I think we're good on that. All right. For this item, do we need to take this out to, I don't think we need to take this out to public, correct?
There's not an action on this agenda for you.
Very good. Okay. So we'll move, so we're done with that one. We'll move on to item 7D, which is our regular update of monthly topics, starting with our staff update.
Okay, once again, Ashley Atkinson, Assistant Director for Planning and Development. First, we'll start off with your monthly update on the Adobe. If you recall from the last meeting, we had been in communication with the owner about re-tarping the building. We had given them a deadline to do so, which has now passed. It is not clicking at all. Carrie, I don't know if you can just make it go, please. The owner has been in communication with us. These photos were taken on Friday. I know the tarp is still there, but the owner has represented that they have done some cleanup at the site, which it does appear that they have done, and we're planning to finish the cleanup and install the tarp this week. We will go back and confirm whether that takes place. The next step that we had discussed with the owner was to convene a meeting with his engineer and architect and discuss further whether a meaningful plan for demolition and preservation can be put together by that team. And if that is not forthcoming, then of course there is still an open code enforcement case on the property, and we are still working with the city attorney on options going forward. But we can, again, monitor to make sure the TARP does go on this week, as they have represented that it will. Okay, thank you, Carrie. And of course, just our regular report on activities. We have been receiving and completing a small number of planning entitlements related to historic properties. You will notice a big jump in building permits received and completed. That is because we implemented a new flag in our system for any property that is 50 years old or older. Applying for a building permit is now getting flagged for historic review, and at least a minimum review is being conducted. Many of those permits are smaller items like moving electrical panels, lots of re-roofs. And so we are working on implementing processes that deal with that volume. the system that we had in place was more geared towards a lower volume, and those customers on those things like re-roofs and small electrical jobs are not used to waiting for a historic review to be completed. So we're making some tweaks to the process and the way we staff it. But it is, generally speaking, intended to, make sure we're not missing anything in terms of construction that affects historic properties or potentially eligible resources. I will also note that the data that 50-year mark is based on is not fully accurate either. It's the best data that the county assessor has, but it is not 100%. There are things that this will not catch, but as you can tell, it's catching a lot more than we used to. So that's good news, although lots of work for Carrie and I. We did not receive or complete any 106 reviews in October. You're familiar with the status of the Mills Act applications, and we completed one mitigation program application that had been received in September. And with that, I think we are done, and I can take any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our architectural review subcommittee update.
The two items that we had tonight were part of that extension, so.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll move on to a chairperson's report. I'm going to say, I know it's one of those rare times that I do say that, but I don't have a report this evening, so we're going to move on to that. I know I kind of dropped the ball on that one. But we will move on now to unscheduled items, starting with members of the commission. Okay. And then any unscheduled items by staff. Okay. At this time, we'll go out to the public, and anybody that has any items, please come forward, and you'll have your 3 minutes.
Great. Again, my name is Edward Medrano. I reside at 3537 East Huntington Boulevard. And I've come today to comment on the mitigation funding and approval for the projects that may be applicable. Since my time is limited, the questions I ask will be rhetorical, and please take them as comments from me. And so the first one would be is, who exactly approves the mitigation funding requests? Are there any engineers, architects, building contractors, or experienced house restorers that consider the merits of the efforts in preserving these houses? I wonder, is the commission dedicated to preserving these historic buildings or merely the facades? A few months ago, I had a very, very important feature of my house that needed to be repaired immediately. And it points to the most important issues for preserving any building is called infrastructure. Good roofs, foundations, electrical systems, and plumbing systems. My 100-year-old water main failed. It broke, and there was a lake in my backyard. I was told that since it is not in the front of the house, it isn't a character-defining feature and will not be supported by mitigation funding. This is absurd. Does this mean that a foundation failure in the back of my house will not be covered? Does this mean that a roof in the back of the house will not be covered? Does this mean that my house may be subject to burning down because I have knob and tube electrical system in the house? I did replace that myself at a considerable cost. But these features that define the character of the house are not only visible from the street. The interior of the house features one of the 3 residential elevators in the historic district. Are they going to support me in repairing that? I have art tiles from the famous Ernest Batchelder, artisan in Pasadena, that are valued at about $1,000 per tile. I have 3 tiled fireplaces of those which need restoration. Is anyone help me with that? It's not visible from the street, but again, their definition is it has to be visible from the street. The mitigation funds, I believe, should be reviewed for the historic preservation of the building, not just its facade. And I went through a completely horrible and unprofessional experience with the Historic Preservation Department in having my funding denied.
Okay. Thank you. All right, anyone else?
I'll leave you on a positive note. This is hard to be heard from unless the person holds it about here. And many things I missed tonight, and it might be because I'm old and hard of hearing, but it's also that the microphone needs to be in the right position. Okay, I came up, Linda Scambray, Heritage Fresno, always pushing our things. We have a wonderful calendar this year. This helps us fundraise and helps us do the job of helping you preserve things. And it's a wonderful collection of things you can be proud of because you might have had something to do with keeping them or maybe seeing them off. But it is a great gift. It's a nice hostess gift for Thanksgiving, and it's a nice Christmas gift as well. And we will be at the farmers market at Blackstone and Shaw on the Saturday morning after Thanksgiving with the calendars, with the books made by Janice Stevens and Pat Hunter, and other things that you could use for wonderful gifts or your own collection, which are great. And we'll be there from 9 until noon on Saturday, the 29th of November, and we hope every Saturday after that, if it's not so cold. And then I'm again urging you on the lantern research and preservation of those lanterns with plaques and identification so they don't get lost, putting them in every window that's locked up and safe from vandals and theft, like libraries, Fresno State, City College, any place we can show people that if you save the artifacts, you're doing the culture good. And then I hope we can go to the Mukes home and have this. The front page of this calendar has a wonderful new painting by Pat Hunter. All the paintings in here are frameable. They're terrific and not even have to be framed. She has a wonderful of the silos that are now knocked down. And the front page is a new view of the Warner's Theater with the 2 statues by Renzi in the foreground, which is a new view of that theater. And that's another project we're working on this year to help bring it back to the public's attention. And happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for all you do and giving up your Monday nights. If you get a calendar, you can show people what you've helped do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, we will move. Our next meeting will be December 22nd at 6 o'clock. And with that, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Oh, a second.
Okay, motion a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.